Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Idiosyncratic Fables. Here we are. Today's date is the 9th of July, and I am one day away from my 16th wedding anniversary, and I'm probably the luckiest man alive. Yeah, my wife and I are going to go out and do something special. She has no idea what's coming, and I'm going to keep it that way. A little bit about me. I am hard at work on the second book in the Elsewhere LitRPG series by Doug Lohse, War and Dungeons. And then after that, I have work all the way out through the middle of October. So things are coming along really, really well. As far as my books go, I think I'm just shy of 65,000 words, so slowly making progress. Not as far as I want to be, but you know what? That's okay. Progress is progress, and the date that I did set for myself to complete it back on July 1st, well, as Murphy's Law would take effect, it did. So things happened, stuff got in the way, but all I can do is just shrug my shoulders and go, you know what? I can't control that, and it's going to be okay. So I don't have another hard set date. I think that's going to add too much unneeded stress on my shoulders. So I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do instead is just make it a point to write at least every day. If I can get that accomplished, then this book will be published before I know it. Speaking of books, but more specifically lit RPG books, Elsewhere by Doug Lohse is available on Audible. Please go check it out. And if you already have your copy, I highly encourage you to leave a review because that not only helps out me, but it more specifically helps out the author, Doug, and for him to get better recognized because I tell you, folks, this book is amazing. I've had people reporting him like, oh my gosh, the book did it like that? Like, yep, sure did. Other people to say that they already have their favorite characters as far as Baslin or Elaine, just because they can relate to that character from their own personal D&D adventures, which is fantastic. But more importantly, I happen to have the author himself as my personal guest for this episode of Idiosyncratic Fables. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Doug Lohse. Doug, thank you so much for being on the show today, sir. I appreciate it.
Oh, I am absolutely enjoying the experience. Happy to be here.
So let's go ahead and kick it off with question number one that I've got for you. What inspired you to start writing?
Well, that's definitely a good question. I started off writing really post COVID as anything serious, but I've been a reader for my entire life.
Okay.
I've read everything sci-fi, fantasy all along. And around 2016, I stumbled into the lit RPG genre. Still very young at the time. Wound up making friends with a bunch of authors, and I started writing, you know, 30,000 words here, stop saying no, it's not good enough, and starting over again. Did that like 5 or 6 times,
Oh,
and
geez.
finally, another author I respect thoroughly, Ryan DeBruin, took me aside and said, "Look, Doug, finish your book. I don't care if it's trash in the first draft. You can edit trash and make it good. You can't edit a blank page. Just finish a book." And now I'm writing book 5.
Outstanding. I am making little notes for myself as well. Thank you. So you started right around COVID. What did you do before becoming an author?
Let's see, Army, school, and ever since then I've been working in HR, and I still do today. Not in areas of HR that most people think of, but it gets confusing when I explain what actually I do. But
Okay.
that's okay.
So you mentioned being in the Army. How long were you in, and what was your MOS?
I was in for about 4 years. MOS was an 05K, which doesn't exist anymore.
I was going to say, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, I think the last iteration I heard was 98K is what it converted to, but it's an intelligence.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, when I was
That's why
in,
I
I
don't talk
was,
about it a whole lot.
that's quite all right. I was a 13 Romeo field artillery radar operator.
Ah, yes.
So, transitioning from the army to the civilian world, how'd that go for you?
And it was interesting because I transitioned from the army straight into school. So
Okay.
I left and I started straight into school right away. And for me, that made it an easier transition. I wasn't in the army for 4 tours in Iraq, so I didn't have that level of emotional and psychological damage.
Right.
I was there. I was there for some of the action, but that's a story we'll tell sometime in private.
Understood.
Um, so that transition wasn't difficult. But the most difficult thing for me, I'd say, in that transition was being in class and realizing I was the only one in the room besides the professor that actually wanted to be there and learn something.
Oh, that's tough.
And going, I'm paying for my school myself. I'm paying thousands of dollars for this. I am going to get every penny of it, of information out of it as I possibly can.
Yeah. So going forward after army, school, civilian job world, what sparked the idea for writing the Elsewhere series? And likewise, how did Duke's journey come to life?
This book definitely grew out of a few ideas. I'll say, my first books I started, I had an incredible beginning. I still to this day I still love the beginning, and then I went off the rails. It went in a direction I totally didn't expect, and I hated it. I put it aside, said, okay, had to figure out why I hated it so much, and it was a system apocalypse type of book. And what it got me was it took too long to get into the action, to get into to the system life. So like, okay, well, how do I correct that? Well, Portal Fiction will do it. Take it, it's Isekai, take them right to the new world, and that's how I started off. Starting the idea for Elsewhere. I
Okay.
had number of ideas, and they just kept stacking on top of each other, and it just became easier and easier to write.
That's awesome. Were there any books, games, or films that influenced the tone or mechanics of your world?
Ooh, everything. Yeah, yeah, as I said, I'm a lifelong reader. I've read thousands of books over my lifetime, hundreds of LitRPG books, which shocked me when I went back and started looking at it. So I've taken pieces from everything.
Okay.
So some books had, hey, that sounds like a pretty cool way to do progression. Let's steal a piece of that. Oh, I like the way that system works. Maybe I'll steal a piece of that. But you take all the pieces from all your experience, all my gaming experience over the years, and bring it all together. For instance, the tiers in the book.
Right.
That's stolen straight out of my old school gaming on MUDs. And
I'm
most
not
people are going,
familiar.
MUDs, what's a MUD?
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
me.
text-based multi-user dungeon. So this was before EverQuest,
Oh, wow.
the
Okay.
original. And there were MUDs that had tiers. You'd advance through all the levels, you would tier, gain new power, but start back at the beginning of levels. And that mechanic was interesting, fun. And I said, yeah, let's adapt it. Let's use it.
I like that. You mentioned MUDs, and as you're describing what it is, the text-based dungeon system, I remembering that when I was stationed back in Yokosuka, Japan, many, many years ago, some friends and I would go to downtown Yokosuka, and there was a computer cafe of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And our ritual is we would go downstairs to the first floor. We would buy a whole bunch of Subway sandwiches and some soda, go up to the fourth floor where the internet cafe was at. And they had vending machines for more soda, coffee, what have you. They also had like this built in fan exhaust system. So if you were a smoker, you could go there and have your cigarette break. But the primary function, you could pay, I think, what is it, 2,000 yen? So roughly 20 bucks for us, and you go in and you have the whole day to sit there and play whatever game you want on a computer. we usually played Diablo 2, and the expansion as well, just going to town, trying to rank up as high as possible. And then the highlight was to go to the Hell Cow levels and try and get as many soju stones as possible. There was a group of people that we also knew from the ship that would also go there, but I just remember seeing this black screen and white text, and they're just going at it like keyboard
That would be
warriors
it.
of the olden days. And I remember asking one guy because he was a corpsman. I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he just slowly turned his head and looked at the corner of his eye over his shoulder at me like I had insulted him with the worst phrase known to mankind. He goes, "We're playing," and I forget the name of the game. It's like, "Oh, well, geez, I'm sorry. Forgive me for asking." And they went right back at it, just typing about 1,000 words a minute. I've
Yeah,
never
a
forgotten that.
lot a lot of modern gaming still stems from that. The whole concept of grouping, raids,
Yeah.
boss levels, all that stuff comes straight from that the realm of mods.
Wow. So, how would you balance inspiration from real world experiences with the demands of fantasy storytelling?
Real world and fantasy, they definitely diverge. You there are different consequences in each. You can kill someone in a fantasy realm pretty easily with minimal consequences. It's not going to happen in the real world.
No.
No. So the demands of the real world, there's family, work, pets, whatever.
Right.
Thousand things to pull you apart. You really just have to set yourself some time aside to change your mind's gears. And unfortunately, usually as I'm going to sleep is when, oh, that great idea is now popping.
Would you say that the evening time is best for you to write, or does it vary?
For me, I generally write before work since I'm happy enough to work from home.
Okay.
So fire up the laptop, work for an hour, write for an hour, maybe hour and a half if I'm up really early, do my work for the day, and if it doesn't go too late, I'll write some more in the evening.
Awesome. So now let's fine tune it just a little bit here. Lit RPG often involves stat systems and dungeon mechanics. How did you approach designing those elements?
For my world, I had started off with the portal to get the character going quickly. And my original thought was, I want to try my hand at writing a cultivation type book. So there's a standard cultivation paths that run essentially through the genre. And I started with that concept and realized it wasn't complex enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started adding more and more to it, and it suddenly became more of a lit RPG mechanic. And I am now up to 39 tabs on my spreadsheet to keep track of it all.
Holy cow. So, in the book itself, the concept of the twin entities, which are introduced fairly early on, and the cosmic stage adds a metaphysical layer. What inspired that?
The twin entities. Really two things. One, every main character in the genre at some point is going to get overpowered. It's you can call it a trope, but it's just the reality of the genre. It's going
Sure.
to happen sooner or later. So you have to prepare for that with things that are beyond the character, even from the start. And the other thing was system messages. They're a standard trump. Even snarky messages are a standard trope. I want a different feel, a different reason for them to be snarky. So I set up the twin entities to be snarky to start, but they also are in somewhat of a conflict with each other. They have they have the same final goal, but they have different approaches to it, and they want different approaches they want to push Duke through. So that conflict right there is inherent in Duke's character. So that's pushed right into him. even the system messages where one's saying, yes, go kill everything. The other saying, hey, have some mercy. And they're and that conflict just gives me another level of fun.
That's awesome. So with the leveling up and or overpowered character, how do you keep the stakes high in a world where characters can level up and gain power so quickly?
I call that the Superman problem.
Okay.
Superman is invulnerable. He's stronger than everyone. He's faster than everyone. He can think. He's smarter than everyone. So how do you attack Superman? Either you throw something that's strong, that you make something that's just stronger than him, or you attack him from a different angle. And that's really the approach to really get into how to take an overpowered main character down, if you will, is you got to approach them from different vectors. So friends, family, areas he cares about, but can't be there to defend. So you have to create these vulnerabilities in the character. If I'm doing it right, I've created enough character flaws that can be exploited in this manner, and I've built some inherent conflicts in his own headspace, if you will,
Okay.
that by the time the series is over will have to be resolved.
How do you write compelling antagonists like Choppy the Lich King without making them feel cliche?
Well, you have to throw a bit of cliche into them.
Well,
It
of
just
course.
works too well. For Choppy's a great example. He's evil, but he's not evil for evil's sake. He is extremely arrogant. He has grown up extremely privileged. Nobody has ever said no to this man. And anybody who has, he's had the power, the authority to just say, well, get rid of them. They're gone.
Gotcha.
So he has that level of privilege, and he's also just as arrogant as Duke. So naturally, they're going to butt heads the second they see each other.
I did pick up a little bit on that when I was going through book one, maybe a smidge. When it comes to the writing process for you, do you outline your books in detail or do you discover the story as you write?
I'd say a bit of a hybrid. I
Okay.
always have the beginning and the end of a book in my mind and several milestones along the way. But beyond that, it is definitely a discovery process. The more detailed you make your characters, the more they're going to make their own decisions and they're going to take you in ways you hadn't expected.
Okay.
I, Later in the series, a character dies that I had not been planning. So there's a little spoiler for you.
Oh,
And it shook
man.
me as an author. I'm hoping it shakes the readers just as hard.
You're probably hoping it's going to shake me as well as your narrator.
I certainly hope so. But it goes to my saying I always use: no plan survives contact with the enemy, and the
That's
enemy
true.
can be your own characters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Now,
So,
mind you, I do have the final epilogue of the series in my head, the final scenes of okay, everything's done, and this is how it wraps up. And I want to write that so badly, but I can't get there yet.
mm, it's the same with me and my current book that I'm working on. Like, I know exactly how I want it to end. I just need to fill in the gaps from where I'm at now to get to the end. So
Yeah,
that leads me to
that,
my next. Oh, I cut you off. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you maintain your momentum during long writing sessions or when facing creative blocks?
No, this is a good one to bring up right now. I'm writing book 5, and I am at a bit of a block, and it's of my own doing because I am trying to get to a particular scene, a particular
Mm-hmm.
particular section, a milestone that's heavily important, and I've got 6 or 7 different points of view flipping in and out that would build up to it. But if I just spend, chapter after chapter flipping points of view, it's going to make the readers go nuts. As a reader, I would go nuts.
Right.
So I've got to focus on a single point of view and kind of intersperse the others as it makes sense as I go along. But when I get going, I average about 1,000 words a day. Some days, even as much as 5,000 words if it's a weekend and I'm just plowing. But there are days when I get zero words written, and I've got other things to do. I've got other work or getting editing done, the other business aspects of being an author. It can get pretty grindy when you're self-published. So every little bit I have to take care of myself. Have to manage my editing, have to manage my cover art, have to manage my book releases, my own marketing, which gives me a great amount of control, but also gives me a lot to do.
I bet so.
So,
Yeah, I'm kind of forward thinking a bit, looking at everything that needs to get done when it's time to publish my books. As far as the ISBN numbers and the cover art and the marketing and the editing and everything that goes into it. I'm just kind of going, I need a list.
I'll throw the number one piece at you that I didn't realize until I was getting close to publishing.
Okay.
Get your copyright first.
Gotcha. So is that through the Library of Congress or elsewhere?
The U.S. Copyright Office.
Okay. Can do. Can do. Yeah, because I remember another author that I follow via Facebook. He mentioned something about the Library of Congress as far as getting the copyright done. Now, is that a separate entity or is that one and the same?
That's a question I don't have an answer to.
That's okay. That'll be something I research on my own time then. So now I'm curious, going back to your book, more specifically the narration of it. What's it been like for you hearing your work narrated? Does it change how you experience your own story?
Oh, that is such a trip. um, for me, I had a certain vocal structure expectation of how things would sound throughout the world, but having someone, you specifically, narrate the book has changed a lot of things. And I'll say Sam is the perfect example of this.
Okay.
He doesn't sound anything like I pictured him, but he sounds exactly how I wrote him.
Okay. So now I'm curious, how did you originally envision Sam sounding?
I expect my envision had him more casual, but I didn't write him casual.
No, he's far from casual.
Yeah, so when I started hearing you doing Sam's voice at first, I'm like, no, that's not Sam. And then I thinking about the words he's saying, the scene he's fitting in, I'm like, yeah, that actually is Sam. All right, I now have a new voice for Sam.
That's awesome. There is a saying out there that as a writer, you input a little bit of yourself into some of the characters in your story. Would you say that's true for elsewhere? And if so, who is it?
Oh, there's pieces of me scattered throughout the story. Um, a piece of me, if anything is going to go wrong, it's going to happen to me. I'm a bit of a weirdness magnet, and that seems to be a bit falling into Grat. He gets a bit of that aspect. The duality of minds that it becomes more prominent later in the series that
Okay.
Duke has. That that I take from myself.
Okay.
You'll have to
Anybody
get through
else?
book two to get to that.
Ah, all right. All right. I was kind of fishing there, but nope, you're not going to give it. That's fine. So,
You'll get
next,
to it by the end of book two. You'll start to see it.
understood. What can readers expect from future installments in the Elsewhere series?
The cosmos is a whole lot bigger than the planet Eldon, and Duke has to step onto that stage, whether he wants to or not. He's going to be forced to step on it.
Okay.
And later books, you will see him on the cosmic stage. Some of the
Interesting.
things that you'll see, dungeons are a key to his power, his growth, his survivability, his personality. That's never going away. Dungeon's
Okay.
going to be a key part of the series all the way through the end.
Okay. Awesome. This is a bit of an oddball question. If Duke, the main character in the Elsewhere series, had a theme song, what would it be?
Now, when I write, I listen to a 269 song playlist
Yes.
and completely on random. So who knows what song's coming up? And every single one of those songs that comes up gets into the story in some way. With that said, the one song that always seems to pop into my head when I think of Duke is Fade to Black by Metallica.
Excellent
And,
choice.
you know, the song itself is a little bit more fatal and terminal than I think it is for Duke, but it's the same depth and feeling of what's ultimately going on in his head.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Now, you mentioned over 260 songs in the playlist. Is it all one genre or is it multiple genres intermixed?
Oh, it is all over the place.
That's fantastic.
Everywhere from 80s synth to even some 70s stuff in there to, you know, some some metal to I don't even know how to describe some of this stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like you're starting to describe some of my Spotify playlists. All right, final question for you. What is one thing about you that readers would never guess?
Well, I'm 7'6". Just kidding, I'm not. I have no earthly clue how to answer that question because I really don't have a sense of what my readers think yet.
That's
I
fair.
haven't met too many, and I'm hoping to do that at LitRPG Con, which is next, not this weekend, but the following weekend in Denver. So that will be exciting. I guess one thing I'll say about me is I am a very approachable person, but I am always stuck in my head. So I'm not the person to go out and jump into a crew and say, "Hey, I'm here. It's me." I'm more likely to sit back, listen to what you have to say, and respond than to be the one to jump in and do and bring you out first.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And you mentioned Lit RPG Con in Denver. How long is that going to go? Is it just for one day, the entire weekend, or what's going on
It's
there?
a 3 day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, so kind of like a normal length convention then.
Yep.
Okay,
Of
awesome.
course, I'll be there Thursday and Monday too because I want to.
Yeah, fair enough. I would love to go, but it's not on the cards this year. Maybe next year. We'll see. We'll see what happens there.
This is the first. This is the inaugural. So hopefully it goes
Okay.
well and they will do it again next year. As far as
Okay.
other conventions, I normally go to Dragon Con. That
Okay.
that that has a massive lit RPG group that shows up. A lot of authors hang out together. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there this year. We'll see.
Oof. Okay. Yeah, I've got, unfortunately, well, no, not unfortunately, that's the wrong word. I have plans that actually overlap that are taking my family and I out of town and quite the opposite direction from where Dragon Con's going to be. So, not this year, but again, quite possibly next year.
Yeah, I'm hoping next year will be even more fun.
Oh, yeah. And then one final bonus question for you. Um, is there anything that you have advice wise to people who want to be writers or who are writers and they're stuck and they haven't written anything in like weeks or months? What advice would you give to them?
The number one piece of advice I will give anyone who wants to be a writer is read, read, read. Read the genre you want to write in. Read the books that are popular. Learn the tropes that those books hit on, and read some of the books that are not successful and figure out what went wrong in those books. That will help guide you. And you also have to decide why you're writing. Are you writing for commercial success? Are you writing because you have stories you just have to get out? Are you writing because you just want to have a feather in cap saying, I am an author, I'm a published author? Those will give you different approaches. If you're writing for commercial success, You have to approach it as a business. There are formulas to take that improve your chances of being successful commercially. Do they guarantee it? Of course not. There's no guarantees in anything.
No, except
But
death and
there are
taxes.
steps you can take to improve your chances. I guess
Good
the
to
other thing I'll
know.
say is, yeah, AI is great. Everyone loves AI. If you write a book using AI, you are going to be shunned by every regular author out there.
Yes. If I will second that. If you have AI write your book for you, congratulations, you're not an author.
Yep.
Ugh. There's a lot I could say against AI, but this is
No.
not the time for that today.
Yes.
Doug, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. It's been an absolute blast having you on, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
It's been my pleasure. It's great to get out and talk.
And thank you to every single person who is tuning in to listen to this episode. As a reminder again, Elsewhere, book one in the Elsewhere series by Doug Lohse, is available now in audio. Make sure you go get your copy, as well as War and Dungeons is well underway as far as the recording process is going. And if you would like to tune in and listen while I record it live, I'll be sure to leave my Discord link in the description for the show. That way, all you have to do is click on the link, and Bob's your uncle. You're right there in the server, ready to tune in and listen to me live. I'm usually there Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. Doug's usually there if and when he has the time to do so, or if he's at the house. But yeah, feel free to pop in, and we are always welcome to have new listeners chime into the Discord server. And likewise, spread the word. If you know people who are curious as to how audiobooks are made and they want to watch me being goofy and doing all these voices and such, send them my way. Be more than happy to welcome them in. And for right now, that is all the time we have in today's show. Once again, thank you for tuning in, everybody. And until I talk to you next time, peace be with you.